Recording in progress.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. My name's Sandra O'Connor, and I'd like to welcome you to the Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Please note that this meeting is being conducted in person and online. If anyone participating online needs help with Zoom during the meeting, please email Luke Carter at lucas, L-U-C-A-S, Carter, C-A-R-T-E-R, at greensboro-nc.gov. Members of the Commission are appointed by the City Council and serve without pay. The Commission reviews all original zoning and rezoning requests for the City of Greensboro. Each Commissioner normally visits each site prior to the meeting. The procedure used at all public hearings is as follows. The planning staff presents background information and makes a recommendation. The applicant will present a short summary on how he or she communicated with the neighborhood and why the request is reasonable. Other persons in favor of the request speak. There's a total of 10 combined minutes shared with the applicant and all those in favor. Speakers opposed to the request also share a total of 10 minutes of speaking time. Those in favor of the request then will share 5 minutes of rebuttal time, and those in opposition will share 5 minutes of rebuttal time. Any commission member may ask any questions once a presenter has completed their presentation. All commissioners are required to vote unless they have a conflict of interest. In an effort to run meetings more efficiently, the Planning and Zoning Commission may reorganize the meeting agenda. Cases in which no opposition has been expressed to the Planning Department and in which Commission members do not feel necessitate in-depth discussion will be moved to the top of the agenda. Staff will provide a shortened presentation for these expedited cases, and applicants have up to 2 minutes to address the Commission if they desire to provide any additional information they want the Commission to know. Expedited cases will then follow the procedures I previously outlined. All denied cases and all approved ordinances receiving 6 or more favorable votes will constitute final action unless an appeal is submitted in writing to the Planning Department and the appeal fee is paid within 10 days. All ordinances receiving a majority of favorable votes, but less than 6, will be subject to a public hearing by the City Council. When the case is called that you are interested in, people wishing to speak online will need to use the raise hand function, and you will be called upon to speak in the order in which hands were raised. Please find the raise hand function under the reaction button. People wishing to speak in person will need to come to the podium. When you're called upon to speak, please state your name and address for the record. Please also direct all comments and questions to the Zoning Commission. Participants in the Zoom meeting will be able to view the meeting and speak when they are called upon. This meeting is being recorded and televised on Greensboro Television Network. In addition, the telecast is being closed captioned for the hearing impaired. I just want to add that those who are participating online share in the 10-minute time limit. So normally what we do is take 2 speakers from chambers. Staff lets us know if anybody's waiting to speak online. We would hear 2 people from online go back to chambers and so on, just so you're clear. We usually have some opening comments also from our City Council, the City Attorney. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Chair O'Connor. I'd like to remind everyone in attendance that when the board is considering rezoning applications, the Planning and Zoning Commission makes determinations that are based on land uses allowed under the proposed zoning district put forth in the rezoning application, and where applicable, also any proposed conditions that have been included with the application. Now, land use concerns can be wide-reaching. By way of example, it would include things like impacts on public infrastructure, traffic concerns, for example. These things can be relevant when a new land use would be allowed by a rezoning. However, there are concerns that are not related to land use and the conditions of a rezoning application, and these would not be germane to the determinations that are made by this body. Such issues would include concerns about school impacts or generalized concerns about crime rates. Other concerns right beyond the land use can be referred to the planning department or the technical review committee as appropriate. And finally, I'd also like to note that the commission cannot affirmatively offer zoning conditions up for the applicant. Any conditions that are going to be attached to rezoning applications must be offered by the applicant themselves.
Thank you very much. I'll allow the commissioners to introduce themselves, starting on my far right.
Keith Peterson.
Andrew Egbert.
Catherine Maggot.
Richard T. Bryson. Vernal Alford.
Zach Engel.
Mary Skeens.
Erica Glass. We're pleased to have our entire commission present this evening in person. Next item on, we don't have any absences. The next item on our agenda is to approve the minutes from the June 12th meeting.
Motion made.
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Magid and Mr. Egbert, Mr. Engel. Just a reminder for commissioners to identify yourselves before you speak for the sake of the minutes. We have a motion and a second to approve the June 12th meeting minutes. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries unanimously. The next item on our agenda is withdrawals and continuances.
Yes, Chair O'Connor, we do have a request this evening to continue item Z-23-07001, a rezoning request for 4004 West Friendly Avenue. And
Thank
that would be
you.
a request to continue it to the August 21st meeting.
Okay, so we have a request to delay the hearing on Z-23-07001, which is the properties on West Friendly Avenue. Would the applicant like to speak about the continuance? If you'd identify yourself with your name and address, please.
Yes, ma'am. Alex Elkin, attorney with Brooks Pierce Law Firm, 230 North Elm Street, Greensboro, for CZS Development Company, LLC. The applicant requests the additional time to the August 21st hearing in order to further engage with the neighborhood and community with respect to the application and conditions that are offered.
Thank you. At this time, we will not have the hearing on the matter. Is there anyone opposed to continuing this matter? If so, you'd need to come to the podium or raise your hand online. Okay, seeing no opposition, then I'll take a motion to continue the item.
This is Commissioner Engel. I'll make a motion to continue this to the August 21st meeting.
Keith Peterson, I second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to continue this matter. All in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? That carries unanimously. We thank the citizens who have been here to speak on this matter and to address the matter. I guess it's been a good dress rehearsal. Could I please remind you that we cannot entertain signs in chambers? Thank you very much, and we will see you, I think, in August. We'll give a few minutes for the chambers to clear. If those who are leaving would go ahead, please, would appreciate it.
I think another minute. That's good.
Thank you. We'll proceed with our meeting. Thank you. It is my understanding. Oops. It's my understanding that we have one person here to speak in opposition to item Z 2307002, but otherwise all of the other items on our agenda have no one registered to speak in opposition. So we would move all of those forward to our accelerated agenda, all except for the item on Lee's Chapel Road. I just want to make doubly certain that there's nobody here expecting to speak in opposition to any of the other matters.
She also wishes to speak on the Lee's Chapel case.
Okay, and we will hear that after we have the accelerated agenda. So thank you for your patience, and thanks for asking. So we'll proceed with the accelerated agenda. So the first item on the accelerated agenda is item PLP 23-14 and Z-23-07-003, an annexation and original zoning request from County AG Agricultural to City RM8, Residential Multifamily 8, for the property identified as 5735 Eckerson Road, generally described as west of Eckerson Road and north of White Oak Drive, 12.04 acres.
Thank you, Chair Connor. This is a map of the subject property, which contains approximately 12.04 acres. It is currently zoned county ag. So with this request is an annexation an annexation request for this property and an original zoning request from county ag to city RM8. North of the request is undeveloped land that is zoned RS20. East of the request is undeveloped land and a single-family dwelling that is zoned RS30 and ag, both county designations. South of the request is single-family dwellings zoned R5, and west of the request is undeveloped land zoned county ag.
Mr.
And
Carter.
County RS30, yes, sir.
The book that we have that you sent us has this as, and it probably is wrong, but I just like to confirm it, Z-22-10-005. I'm assuming that the schema
staff
typically
report-
follows, that would be October's meeting. So this is a 23-07-003?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There was a typo in the staff report
Okay.
for the case
Thank
file
you.
or the case number.
I apologize for interrupting you. I just wanted to make sure.
Thank you. Yes, and so just officially, the case number for zoning is Z-23-07-003. Yes, thank you. In general, staff concluded that the GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan supports this request. The future built form map designates the property as planned industrial and industrial on the future land use map. If this item is adopted, the future land use designation on the land use map and the future built form map designation will be amended to urban general and residential. The residential multifamily 8 zoning district is primarily intended to accommodate duplexes, twin homes, townhomes, cluster housing, and other residential uses at a density of 8 dwelling units per acre or less. And with that, staff recommends approval of this request.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Is the applicant here? Would you like to add anything to the brief presentation? Would have up to 2 minutes if you'd like to speak. And if you'd give your name and address, please.
So you've got the two there. So you got the floor plan. Yep, there.
Good evening. My name is Sam Schultz. I'm a realtor with United Realty Group, 620 Green Valley Road, Suite 304, Greensboro, North Carolina, 27455. This project we've brought forward to the city in order to get this zoning to allow for townhomes. We would like to do townhomes on the front, and we're going to have some single-family dwellings along the back, along the creek, where we have a proposed connection to the neighborhood to our south. We wanted to keep the neighborhood kind of flowing into our community before transitioning to the townhomes. This is the basic layout of the proposed neighborhood, what we're going to do with the zoning. This just gives you an idea of some of the units that we are pulling forward, just to kind of give you a grand overview, as it were. Single, two-story townhomes in different groupings. And that's pretty much, unless there's specific questions. I know we've had quite a lot of excitement tonight, but, you know, along with the staff report, everything's been very good. We did have 3 people attend our community meeting and 1 person who could not attend. They called, asked a few questions. Everything was kind of in line, as has been included with the staff report. Nothing earth-shattering, in my opinion, as a former city county planner.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from commissioners?
Mary Skeens, I do. There's no conditions associated with this request. And Mr. Schultz indicated single-family as well as multifamily.
As well as townhomes, yes, ma'am.
Okay. But being asked to rezone the whole parcel to RM8.
Right, that's to, as we go through the process with the city, as well as through the original zoning, to be able to just use one blanket, but we are going to restrict through the HOA and through our own development, as you see here with the single-family homes across the bottom, rather than doing a PUD or something that's more complex than what's needed for this community, in our opinion.
The question is to staff, having a single family as well as multifamily under the RM8 zoning without anything being defined as to what's going to be where, is staff okay with that projection?
Yes. Both uses are allowed under the district, and that's what happens is the multifamily effectively builds on the single family as far as use rights on there. But our analysis would be fine if it's all multifamily, if it's all single family, if it's a combination of it. We are comfortable with this request, yes.
And this is for illustrative purposes only that's been
Correct.
put up on the screen.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Keynes. Any other questions? If not, I'd be looking for two motions. Unless there's an objection, we'll close the public hearing. And I'd be looking for two motions, first for annexation and then for zoning.
This is Commissioner Engel. I would move we annex the property.
Thank you, Mr. Engel.
Commissioner Magid, second.
Thank you, Ms. Magid. All those in favor of the annexation, please raise your right hand. Anyone opposed? Okay.
This is Commissioner Engel. I'll make the motion.
Thank you.
In regards to Agenda Item Z-23-07-003, the Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes this action to recommend approval of the original zoning request for the property 5735 Eckerson Road from County Ag to CDRM 8, Residential Multifamily 8, to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and considers the action taken to be reasonable in the public interest for the following reasons. One, the request is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan's future built form map and future land use map. Two, the proposed city RM8 zoning district not as conditioned, straight zoning, permits uses which fit the context of surrounding area and limits negative impacts on the adjacent properties. Three, the request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner, surrounding community, and this approval is in the public interest.
Second, Catherine Magid.
Thank you, Mr. Engel and Ms. Magid. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Okay, those were both unanimous and constitute a favorable recommendation and is subject to a public hearing at the Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 City Council meeting. The next item on our accelerated agenda is item PLP 15-23, an annexation request for 2220 Huffine Mill Road, a portion of 260 Willow Lake Road, a portion of Willow Lake Road right-of-way, 2300 Z4 Huffine Mill Road, and a portion of I-840 right-of-way, generally described as south of Huffine Mill Road, east of Willow Lake Road, and including a portion of I-840E and I-785, 46.03 acres, and item Z-2307-004, an original zoning and rezoning request from County Agricultural AG to County RS-30MH, residential single-family manufactured home, and City HI, heavy industrial, to City PUD, planned unit development, for the properties identified as 2220 Huffine Mill Road and a portion of 260 Willow Lake Road, generally described as south of Huffine Mill Road and east of Willow Lake Road, 59.53 acres. Mr. Carter?
We've got one more.
We have
Yes,
another,
two
I'm
more.
sorry, it's a long presentation. This also includes item Z 2307-005, an original zoning and rezoning request from County AG Agricultural and County RS 30 Residential Single Family 30 to City CM Commercial Medium for the properties identified as a portion of Willow Lake Road right-of-way, generally described as south of Huffine Mill Road and north of Burlington Road, .07 acres. And finally, item Z2307004.
And that should be 006. I apologize for that.
Thank you. So that would be item Z2307006, an original zoning request from County AG Agricultural to City HI Heavy Industrial for the properties identified as 2300 Z4 Huffine Mill Road and a portion of I-840 right-of-way, generally described as south of Huffine Mill Road, east of and including I-840, 11.73 acres. Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. Okay, so this case is expedited, but there's a lot going on, so I'm going to take an extra minute and just explain the cases and explain what is going on. So first and foremost, the city has received an original zoning request and an annexation request for the properties that you see, can no longer do that, that have the crosshatched area that are, that's X's basically. And then that is in conjunction with the portion that is zoned HI, which is the purple with horizontal crosshatches there. And those are part of the case that is kicking all of this off. Okay, so with those, you have the original zoning from County Ag and RS 30 with a mobile home, or sorry, manufactured home overlay district associated with it. And that's the original zoning request. The rezoning request that is associated with that too will be from City HI, and then both would request are to City PUD for planned unit development. There is case law that says that when you have property that is a satellite annexation, like this would be, and there's property that's in between the satellite annexation and primary corporate limits that is owned by a public entity, the city, the state, entities like that, that the intervening publicly owned property comes in as well. So that's why you have two additional cases with this one. You've got 005, which is an original zoning case from County Ag and County RS 30 to City CM. It's public right-of-way. It is only the right-of-way for Willow Lake Road. And then you have case 006, which is also part of the annexation and original zoning request that goes to HI. That is currently County Ag and City HI. So with this, you're making 5 motions. You've got the overall annexation request for all the property that you see here. Then you have the original zoning request and rezoning request for the crosshatched area that is privately owned land. And then there's because it's a planned unit development, there's a unified development plan that you'll vote on as well. And then you will vote on the cases that involve the public right-of-way, the publicly owned land, which would be 005 and 006. Okay. So with that, the property to the north of the subject request is county property, and it is zoned County RS 30. To the east is County Ag and City HI, and that's I-840 and a water treatment plant to the east, single-family dwellings to the north. To the south is County Ag and County RS 30. Those are single-family dwellings and undeveloped land. And then to the west is County Ag, County RS 30 in the right-of-way, and then City CDCM. These are the conditions that were proposed by the applicant. That is also reflected on the Unified Development Plan. And in recommending approval, the city staff finds that GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan designates the properties as urban general, ex-urban, planned industrial on the future built form map. And the comprehensive plan's future land use map designates the properties as industrial and residential. The residential development, residential designation includes both single and multifamily residential. If the zoning is approved, the ex-urban designation will be amended to be residential. Sorry, that should be, the ex-urban would be amended to be urban general. The proposed planned unit development zoning district, as conditioned, allows moderate intensity residential uses that support nearby industrial uses and are also compatible with the various nearby residential uses. Care should be taken with respect to building orientation, building materials, building height, and visual buffers to ensure an appropriate transition to adjacent and nearby lower density residential development. And with that, I can answer any questions that you have.
Are there any questions from the commissioners? Does the applicant wish to add any comments? We have up to 2
No, I
minutes.
didn't. Usually it shows up here. Yeah, gotcha. Thank you.
If you'd give your name and address, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Commission. Just very briefly, for the record, Mark Isaacson, 804 Green Valley Road. I'm here on behalf of the property owners and the applicants. Luke mentioned it's complicated. I think it's complicated on paper, but the simple point here is that my clients here are three experienced, well-known builders and developers, D Stone Builders, Windsor Homes, and Berkeley Communities. And they simply want to build a residential community here off of the outer loop to provide housing in an area that is quickly growing and to address a housing need for this part of our growing community. Happy to answer any questions the Commission may have.
Are there any questions? Seeing any, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from commissioners? If not, we'll be looking for, as Mr. Carter told us, 5 separate motions. First, 1 for annexation, 3 separate zoning motions, and then finally 1 for the Unified Development Plan.
I'd like to make a motion, it's Catherine Magid, to annex PLP 23-15.
Chair O'Connor, I'm sorry, I don't believe I heard the public hearing be
Oh,
closed.
thank you. Unless there's an objection, we'll close the public hearing. Ms. Magid, sorry.
Okay.
Thank
I'd like
you.
to make a motion, sorry about that, to annex PLP 23-15.
Richard T. Bryson, second.
Thank you, Ms. Magid and Mr. Bryson. We have a motion and a second for the annexation. All in favor, please raise your hand. Thank you. 3 more.
I'd like to make a motion for the item C 23-07-004. The Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that its actions to recommend approval of the original zoning request for the properties at 2220 Huffine Mill Road and a portion of 2060 Willow Lake Road from County AG Agricultural County RS 30 MH Residential Single Family Manufactured Home and City HI High Industrial to PUD Planned Unit Development to be consistent with the adopted Greensboro 2040 Comprehensive Plan and considers the action taken to be reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. 1, the request is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan's future build format and future land use map. 2, the proposed city PUD zoning district as condition permits uses which fix the context of the surrounding area and limits negative impacts on the adjacent properties. And 3, the request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and the surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
Vernal Alford, I second.
Thank you, Ms. Magid and Mr. Alford. And all those in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? That's unanimous. We have another motion.
Item Z-23-07-005. The Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that
Actually, let me stop real quick. We need to go ahead and approve the Unified Development Plan that is associated with the PUD zoning that Ms. Magid just made the motion on. So if we can do that first,
Oh, okay, so we need a motion
just
on
to
the
kind of keep everything together.
So, Catherine Magid, I'd like to make a motion for the Unified Development Plan to be passed.
Keith Peterson, second.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Megan and Mr. Peterson. All those in favor, this is the vote on the Unified Development Plan. Please raise your hand. Is anyone
Thank you.
opposed? Thank you. Mr. Peterson.
Item Z-23-07-005, the Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that its action to recommend approval of the original zoning request for a portion of Willow Lake Road right-of-way from County AG Agriculture and County RS 30 Residential Single Family 30 to City CM Commercial Medium to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan and considers the action taken to be reasonable and in the public's interest for the following reasons. The request is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan Future Built Form Map and Future Land Use Map. The proposed City CM zoning district as condition permits uses which fit the context of surrounding area and limits negative impacts on the adjacent properties. The request is reasonable due to the size, physical condition, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and surrounding community, and approval is in the public's interest.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Mary Skeens, second.
Thank you, Ms. Gaines. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? That carries. And one final.
Madam Chair, Richard T. Bryson would like to make a motion on Z-23-007, Z-23-07-006. The Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that these actions to recommend approval of the original zoning request for 2300 Z-4 Huffine Mill Road and a portion of I-840 right-of-way from County AG Agricultural to City HI Heavy Industrial to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan and considers the action taken to be reasonable in the public interest for the following reasons. The request is consistent with the comprehensive plans, future built form map and future land use map, the proposed City HI zoning district as conditioned permits uses which fit the context of surrounding area and limits the negative impact on the adjacent properties. The request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It would benefit the property owner and surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
Second, Catherine Magid.
Thank you, Mr. Bryson and Ms. Magid. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? All of those carry, and that concludes all our motions on those?
Yes, ma'am.
So all of this constitutes a favorable recommendation and is subject to a public hearing at the Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 City Council meeting. The next item on our accelerated agenda is item Z-23-07007, a rezoning request from PUD Planned Unit Development to PUD Planned Unit Development for the properties identified as 2970 Mearns Castle Drive, 2998 Mearns Castle Drive, 3000 Queensland Trail, 3020 Queensland Trail, 1800 Quarry Cliffs Point, and 1820 Quarry Cliffs Point, and 1839 Quarry Cliffs Point, generally described as northeast of NC Highway 68 and northwest of I-73, 50.902 acres. Mr. Carter.
Thank you, Chair O'Connor. This is the zoning map for the subject property, which contains approximately 5.902 acres. It is currently zoned planned unit development, and there is a unified development plan that has been previously approved for this request. The request is to amend the conditions, or one of the conditions on the request, and then also to update the unified development plan. What you see to the north is single-family dwellings that are zoned Oak Ridge RS40. East and south of the request is the I-73 interstate, and that is zoned County Ag. West of the request is, you've got a mixture of of NCDOT right-of-way for NC 68. You've got a convenience store with fuel pumps and undeveloped land, and the GTCC campus there. All zoned commercial medium, CDCM, planned unit development, and city PI. These are the conditions that have been proposed by the applicant. Specifically, the new condition from what was previously approved is condition number 3, allowing for flexibility in the height of the residential structures on parcel 2. In general, the request is supported by the GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and the proposed planned unit development zoning designation as condition would allow a mix of residential and non-residential uses in the immediate proximity of educational and residential uses, and there's some industrial uses adjacent as well. The request also provides an appropriate transition between adjacent low-density residential uses to the north and more intense commercial development to the south and the west. And with that, I can answer any questions that you have at this time.
Do we have any questions from commissioners? If not, would the applicant like to spend up to 2 minutes with additional comments?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the Commission, for the record, it's Mark Isaacson, 804 Green Valley Road, here on behalf of the property owner and the applicant. And while we think we have worked through any concerns that were expressed at our neighborhood meetings and after that, I thought the Commission might find it interesting to hear why we are requesting this change. The one change we're requesting is to be able to go from 3 stories to 4 stories for one parcel of the multifamily component of this PUD project. That was triggered by 2 things. One was the steep topography that this parcel is subject to. Our engineers recommended that we go to 4 stories for this particular parcel with the apartment buildings. Secondly, Cone Hospital acquired one of the parcels at this PUD, planned unit development, and our client received from their marketing folks report that an older population has expressed interest in living at this project because of its close proximity to a proposed new medical office and facility. So in order to have elevators, well, economically, in order to justify elevators, we really need 4 stories in these new apartment buildings. Our previous zoning had a 3-story limitation, and so we're asking for the Commission to approve 4 stories for the apartments on this particular part of the property.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If not, unless there's an objection, we'll close the public hearing. And we'll be looking for 2 separate motions, one first for the zoning and then second for the updated Unified Development Plan.
I'll make a motion. This is Commissioner Engel.
Thank you, Mr. Engel.
In regards to agenda item Z-23-07-007, the Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes its action to recommend approval of the rezoning request for the properties at 2970 Mearns Castle Drive, 2998 Mearns Castle Drive, 3000 Queensland Trail, 3020 Queensland Trail, 1800 Quarry Cliffs Point, 1820 Quarry Cliffs Point, and 1839 Quarry Cliffs Point from PUD, PUD, Plan Unit Development, to PUD, Plan Unit Development, to be consistent with the adopted GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan, and considers the action to be reasonable in the public interest for the following reasons. 1, the request is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan's future built form map and future land use map. 2, the proposed PUD zoning district, as conditioned, permits uses which fit the context of the surrounding area and limits negative impacts on the adjacent properties. 3, the request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area that will benefit the property owner and surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
Catherine Magid, second.
Thank you, Mr. Engel and Ms. Magid. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? It's unanimous. And then we need a
Commissioner
motion.
Engel, I'd like to recommend approval of the UDP.
Second, Catherine Magid.
Thank you, Mr. Engel and Ms. Magid. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? Those are both unanimous. This approval constitutes final action unless an appeal is submitted in writing to the Planning Department and the appeal fee is paid within 10 days. Anyone may file such an appeal. All such appeals will be subject to a public hearing at the Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 City Council meeting. All adjoining property owners will be notified of any such appeal. Thank you. That concludes our accelerated agenda. We will now return to our original agenda, and the next item is Z23-07002, a rezoning request from R5, Residential Single Family 3, to PUD, Planned Unit Development, for the properties identified as 1332 and 1334 Lee's Chapel Road, generally described as south of Lee's Chapel Road and east of Mizell Road, 3.73 acres. Mr. Carter?
Thank you. This is the zoning map of the subject property, which contains approximately 3.73 acres and is located south of Lee's Chapel Road and east of Mizell Road. The request is for a rezoning from R5 to planned unit development, which would include the required unified development plan. North of the request is zoned R3. East of the request is zoned R5 and CD-RM12. South of the request is zoned RM12, and west of the request is zoned R5. This is the aerial map of the subject property, which contains a single-family dwelling on one portion of the property and undeveloped land on the other parcel. North of the request contains single-family dwellings. There is a single-family dwelling on the east of the request. Farther east, there are multifamily dwellings. South and southwest of the request are multifamily dwellings, and west of the request is a single-family dwelling. This is an image of the subject property. This is the parcel that has the single-family dwelling on it, and this is the undeveloped portion of the request. This image shows single-family dwellings that are located north of the request, zoned R3. These are also single-family dwellings located north of the request, zoned R3. This is a single-family dwelling located east of the request, zoned R5. This is multifamily dwellings located south of the request, zoned RM12. And this image shows the multifamily dwellings that are located southwest of the request, zoned RM12. And this image shows the single-family dwelling that's located west of the request, zoned R5. This view is facing northeast on Lee's Chapel Road. The subject property is on the right. And this is facing southwest on Lee's Chapel Road. The subject property is on the left. This view is facing south on Mizell Road. The subject property is on the left. And this is facing north on Mizell Road. The subject property is on the right. These are the conditions that have been proposed by the applicant and are reflected on the Unified Development Plan. And in recommending approval, staff finds that the GSO 2040 Comprehensive Plan designates this site as urban general on the future built form map and residential on the future land use map. The proposed rezoning request supports the comprehensive plan's Creating Great Places big idea to meet housing needs and desires with sufficient and diverse supply of housing products, prices, and locations. The request also supports the filling in our framework big idea regarding how we arrange our land uses where we work, and where we live and attend school, and where we shop and enjoy our free time. The proposed PUD zoning classification as conditioned would allow residential uses in immediate proximity to each other. The non-residential component of the PUD includes conditions that limit potential negative impacts on the surrounding area. The zoning also encourages appropriate scale development close to an urban mixed-use corridor and maintains good transitions between existing residential development and commercial uses. And with that, I can answer any questions that you have at this time.
Are there any questions from commissioners? Ms. Gaines?
I'm sorry. On the UDP, there's a comment that TRC had conditionally approved it with comments that all existing easements should be shown on the UDP. The UDP that we have in our books, I'm not, either my eyes aren't good enough or it doesn't show the easements.
So you can conditionally approve the UDP if you're good with all of the other items. The Unified Development Plan in general are the zoning conditions. It is the zoning district. So just like in our ordinance, we've got dimensional standards and permitted uses. That is the function of the Unified Development Plan. Easements is one of the things that is not required to be on the Unified Development Plan by the ordinance, but sometimes the service providers know that there is something there and they want to call attention to it to the developer, and so they will request that that be placed on the Unified Development Plan. So that was a condition of approval by the Technical Review Committee. You have the right to approve the Unified Development Plan with the same condition if you choose.
My gut says that's what we need to do, since that was a condition, that what we've got in our books is not a final UDP. It's got to have other things added to it.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes. And so if you conditionally approve it, when the applicant, they still have one more step of submitting the Unified Development Plan for staff review. We will note that that is a condition of approval and will be reviewed at that time.
I had never seen a UDP come to us that had conditions outstanding in it. It might have been, and I didn't catch it, but this one was jumped out at me.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? If not, we'll give the applicant up to 10 minutes. If you come forward and give your name and address, please.
My name is Judy Stalder, 115 Southwest Gate Drive. Also here to answer your questions is Jack Reese from Commercial Realty Advisors and Jeff Gurnier from Old Vineyard Partners. You may recognize their names from other developments around town. This proposal is a planned unit development at the intersection of a major thoroughfare and a collector street. Showing on your screen is an elevation for the townhomes we plan to build. There will be no more than 20 townhomes with a maximum height of 40 feet and natural materials incorporated into the facade. We also have an elevation, do I need help with this? Of the, oh, sorry, I just need to go down. An elevation of the proposed self-storage unit. It's climate controlled. It's designed to serve the townhomes that will be on the property, apartments in the surrounding area, and single-family homes also in the area. In addition to all the standards that regulate such buildings in your ordinance, such as a 50-foot height limit, no outdoor storage, no hazardous materials, and the facades have to be 50% natural material. We've added conditions that limit the retail and office uses to just those uses that are directly associated with these self-storage buildings, so there won't be any other kinds of office or retail in there. Also, it's interior access only, so that anybody entering the building has to be confirmed and verified to be there. And the exterior of that development, of that building, will coordinate with the exterior of the townhomes that will be on the same site. The arrangement of the buildings on the site is logical. We're going to have the self-storage building at the intersection of the thoroughfare and the collector, and the townhomes adjacent to the R3 property. The traffic generated is minimal. You may not have thought about it, but people only visit their stuff once a month or less. So the self-storage doesn't actually generate much traffic. And as you know, townhomes generate less traffic than single-family homes. I believe this is a simple but brilliant idea for planned unit development. We did reach out to the neighbors And I think we were successful. We used some tactics that we've learned from the planning department gathering information about successful neighborhood reach out. Our first attempt was by letter with an invitation to a Zoom meeting, also included an invitation for telephone conversations if you couldn't make it to the Zoom meeting or you just didn't want to do that. And we also offered to meet individually and in person. 2 neighbors attended the Zoom meeting, and they were not in opposition. They just had a lot of questions about what was happening here. We also talked to several neighbors by phone. Their questions were about the type of housing that would be there. There's a sign on the property that says it's appropriate for multifamily development, and I think that townhomes are preferable to apartments for this neighborhood or for this particular site in this neighborhood. So there was some confusion there. There were questions about traffic, and then there was also very sweetly concern about the neighbor who used to live there. But we continue to stay in touch with the neighbors. I even got some emails today in support. So in conclusion, I just want to say you're seeing an innovative and interesting idea for a mix of uses on a major roadway. Your ordinances and the conditions we added protect the adjacent uses. And we've had great input and understanding from the neighbors, so we ask for your approval of this request.
Thank you. Are there any questions? If not, we have up to 5 minutes and 46 seconds remaining for anyone else who wants to speak in favor of the application. Seeing none, we have up to 10 minutes available for anyone who wants to speak in opposition to the application. And if you'd like to come to the podium and give your name and address, please.
New councilmen. My name is Gina Reed. I live at 1339 Lee's Chapel Road, Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm the little yellow house right across the street from where they're proposing this. And I guess my biggest problem or issues or concerns might be what she had brought up is how are we getting into this property from the main road, or it's going, I need to know how they're planning on doing it. There's a lot of traffic up and down this road. There's a lot of bicycles that ride up and down this road on a regular Mondays and Thursdays. So I guess my biggest thing is how are they planning on wanting to have that traffic flow going into that residential that they're talking about? Because I just don't see how they can use that main road to do that. There is I do know that there's 2 ways into the property behind them, and I do know there's only one way into the property down below them, the apartment buildings down there. So Church Street is one, and Merle Street, I think, is the other. So there is only one driveway into that single-family home on that property. And I don't know how they do it here, but I don't think that property driveway is going to be suffice enough to make an entranceway into their property. So I would just like to, have those questions answered before I decide if I want to appeal it or not.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anyone else here who wants to speak in opposition to the application? We have 8 minutes and 16 seconds remaining. Okay, then we'll go to rebuttal time if no one else cares to speak. We have up to 5 minutes for the applicant. If you want to identify yourself again, please.
Thank you. This is Judy Stalder, 115 South Westgate Drive. We not only had our UDP reviewed by Technical Review Committee, we also had an illustrative site plan reviewed. our site may not end up being developed like this, but it shows our entrance off of Lee's Chapel Road to serve both the townhomes and the self-storage. And this has been reviewed by TRC. They didn't note any issues with the entrance. But as I said earlier, there's just not a lot of traffic generated here. I went out to the property. I don't know if you had a chance to, but drove in and came back out just to make sure that the site distances were easy for an old lady to get out and worked fine for me. So I don't know what else to say about this. There's so little traffic generated that it certainly wouldn't come close to requiring a traffic impact study. And along Mizell Road, our neighbor is a single family home, so I don't think it'd be appropriate to take traffic out that way. And we also have a built-in buffer there already with a row of Leland cypress.
So could I just ask a couple of quick questions here? This appears, as I'm looking at this, there's a court across the street, right? It looks like your entrance is going to be sort of directly across the street from the court. So
Right.
From a, planning perspective, typically we try to make sure that we're not offsetting, right? And this was approved by TRC. We really don't get into traffic here. I mean, that's one of the challenges. We are more about the land use. So this is going to be, on this property, do we have townhomes in this self-storage use? Is that appropriate or otherwise? So that's just looking at this, what we can consider.
I'd like to make one correction. It was not approved by TRC. It was reviewed as a sketch plan.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bryson?
Madam Chair, I know we don't consider traffic as a proponent for condition for zoning, but I don't live too far from this area. And I cannot visualize how this is going to work in this area, being on Lee's Chapel, being the entrance back and forth on Lee's Chapel, how that's going to fit. Two, what they're proposing is so different for that area. Having self-storage and a townhome community right beside each other in that area. I don't think anything like that in that area that has a combination of the two.
Yeah,
on two parcels.
It's new and innovative. Yes,
Correct.
It is. And I think it's a great idea. It's different in that area because it's different in Greensboro. But it does provide housing, and then it provides an amenity for the housing. So if you're downsizing from a large home to a townhome, and you still have a lot of stuff you don't want to let go of, this would be the perfect place for you. And Mr. Bryson, we'd love to sell one to you.
Well, this job's free. I don't get paid for this. But I'm thinking about this also. 20 townhomes on, was it 3.9 acres, I think it is?
It's 20 townhomes, yes.
On how many acres?
3.73 acres.
That's not all the townhomes going to take all the acres, is it?
Pardon?
All the townhomes not going to take up all that acreage, so they're only possibly
no.
1.5 acres.
Well, yeah, I see what you're saying,
Correct.
but yeah, this isn't under any of your zoning districts. It's a planned development district, so we're sort of writing the rules as we go along. But yeah, I don't know how you would figure the density on this since it's a business and townhomes.
Like I said, I'm thinking about also that this area, you see, you reach out to the neighbors. I know for this area, a lot of this area is rental properties. So I don't know if a lot of the neighbors are absentee owners. They knew about this or not. I'm not for sure. You probably did what you're supposed to do as they send that information, but I don't know if the true owners got wind of what's going on this property, because I know behind to the south of this property is an apartment complex.
That's right.
And to the east is some rental properties, housing to the east of this property too. So It's a question. I just want to
Yeah,
try to figure that out.
the property to the east is not occupied during the evenings. It's used as, okay, it may not be used as a residential specific use. And we did talk to the owner of that property, and he was fine with our plans.
And this is for staff. The staff will, TRC have to look at this, not just let it get
Yeah.
a stamp for approval from TRC?
Right, and what was noted earlier, so there was a sketch review, which is effectively a conceptual plan that then we're looking for any kind of big ticket items as far as infrastructure, other things. And I think that was the question of, major items came up from that, but there will need to be an official site plan approved by TRC after if the zoning is approved. And the zoning would then establish the dimensional requirements through the Unified Development Plan. So that's how that all fits together. But no, the city's going to look at this again, and they'll make sure of any traffic safety concerns or any other site design issues, make sure we're meeting all those city requirements.
And the reason being I bring that up too, because I know for a fact that Monsell Road is a cut through. For people who don't want to go to Lee's Chapel, you cut through over to Denny. At the end of that's with Monsell and Lee's Chapel connect each other. So I know people run through there to try to meet all those stoplights and everything. So I just want to make sure we take that into consideration, the safety of the neighborhood and everything too. So thank you.
Any other questions? Do you have any other comments, Ms. Taylor?
No, thank you.
Yeah, I'm fascinated too by the unique approach and having the storage and noting that the storage is all entered from the inside, so the facade would have a business look to it.
Yeah, it looks more like a typical office building.
Yeah, okay. Any other questions? We have up to 2 minutes and 57 seconds remaining for anyone who wants to speak in favor.
I think we're okay. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So then we have another 5 minutes available for anyone who wants to speak in opposition. Do you have any other comments you wanted to offer? Okay, if there are no other speakers, then we will close the public hearing. And we will be looking for two motions. One is for zoning and one is for the UDP plan.
Catherine Maggot, I'd like to make a motion for Z23-07-002. Oh, sorry, I've got the, no, where to? Okay. The Greensboro Planning and Zoning Commission believes that its actions to recommend approval of the zoning request for the properties at 1332 and 1334 Lee's Chapel Road from R5 Residential Single Family 5 to PUD Planned Unit Development to be consistent with the adopted Greensboro 2040 Comprehensive Plan and considers the actions taken to be reasonable and in the public interest for the following reasons. 1, the request is consistent with the Comprehensive Plan's future build format and future land use map. 2, the proposed PUD zoning district as condition permits uses which fits the context of the surrounding area and limits negative impact on the adjacent property. 3, the request is reasonable due to the size, physical conditions, and other attributes of the area. It will benefit the property owner and the surrounding community, and approval is in the public interest.
This is Commissioner Engel. I'll second it.
Thank you, Ms. Maggot and Mr. Engel. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Anyone opposed? That's unanimous. And then a motion, please, on the UDP, Unified Development Plan.
This is Mary Skeens. I'd like to make a motion to conditionally approve the attached UDP subject to the items noted from TRC.
Richard T. Bryson, second.
Okay, we have a motion, a second. Thank you, Ms. Skeens and Mr. Bryson. All those in favor for conditional approval? Anyone opposed? Both carry unanimously. This approval constitutes final action unless an appeal is submitted in writing to the Planning Department and the appeal fee is paid within 10 days. Anyone may file such an appeal. All such appeals will be subject to a public hearing at the Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 City Council meeting. All adjoining property owners will be notified of any such appeal. That concludes our public hearings. Do we have any items from the Planning Department?
We do not have anything for the commission this evening.
Okay, nothing from the Planning Department. Do we have anything from the Planning and Zoning Commission members?
Madam Chair, are we ready for next month?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Are we ready for next month? We saw the turnout today.
Oh, well,
Are we
ready,
ready for
ready
next
as we're
month?
going to be. I will note, we anticipate that the applicant is going to offer additional conditions. They've already indicated that to staff, but they're in negotiation with various parties related to that. So the request will be modified to some degree when you see it next month.
Good.
How many cases?
Good.
What was that? 10 total? Yeah. Some of them are annexation and zoning, but 10 total.
Okay.
They're combos, so.
So we're gonna look at probably some sort of food or something.
Going for
that evening.
sustenance? Yes, I know that's where we're heading. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can look into that. Yes.
Bring your lunch.
I'd just like to thank Chair O'Connor. It was a very wordy meeting, and thank you for doing such a fantastic job.
Thank you. Anything else? We appreciate the staff having everything so well coordinated and appreciate everybody working together on this evening. I assume there's no objection to adjourning the meeting. Thank you.